Welcome to Awaken Life Radio, a podcast about being a spiritual being, having a human experience in a world gone mad. Each week, we will discuss how you can heal yourself, cultivate your intuitive superpowers, and be a sacred vessel for planetary healing. I am your host, Narayani Gaia. In today's episode, I interview Aunty Elizabeth Theriault. And before sharing the actual interview with you, I wanted to add a little piece about where we met and how this particular event was seated. We met at the 1,000 Hummingbirds for Women and Waters gathering, which was visioned by Ohlone elder Anne-Marie Sayers. And it was her guidance that supported the 4-year ceremony, because the gathering was on Ohlone land, and we did gather with women from all nations for 4 years. And that in the journey of counseling, of which Aunty Elizabeth was part of that council, there were constant offerings and appointments and gifts and things that were in the traditional way offered to the elder of the land, Anne-Marie Sayers, whom I also had the pleasure to meet many years later with Chief, where we went and offered her a bundle so that she would honor and bless our Starseed Visionary Conference that we held in 2017. And she is a wise medicine keeper of an old lineage, and it was an honor to meet her. And it was actually after I completed the interview with Aunty Elizabeth that I found out that Anne-Marie Sayers was consulted, made offerings to, and was actually the visionary for the Hummingbirds gathering, of which I was a part for 3 out of the 4 years, because I had just moved out to Santa Cruz the second year of the gathering. And so she wanted me to mention that, because when we are talking about ceremony and we are sharing wisdom ways, we want to make sure that people know about the respectful way to go about doing ceremony, which is always, if you're working with the land, to connect with the elders of that land and make offerings and get their blessings. So without further ado, enjoy today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Life Radio. I am your host, Narayani Gaia, and I am here with one of my beautiful friends and elders, Elizabeth Theriault from Hawaii. Welcome. Hi, Elizabeth.
Aloha, Narayani. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Aloha.
Yay. Thank you. We didn't meet on Hawaii, even though I have spent some time on Maui. We met at a beautiful gathering called the Hummingbird Gathering, which is a 4-year ceremony, actually. And we'll be getting into sharing a little bit about that with y'all today. And if you're listening when you're driving, it is safe to listen while you're driving to this recording. And if you are at home, great, grab a cup of tea, and you might even want to grab a pen and take some notes in your journal, because when I get to speak with somebody like Miss Elizabeth, who is a very humble and beloved wisdom keeper, she does not refer to herself as a healer, but I gave her that name because it's obvious to me as a drum maker, an artist, a chef, and a woman of great love and a ceremony leader. She has some nuggets for us today. And so you may want to document and also just write out anything that comes up for you. And at the end of our session today, you'll have a chance to find out how to stay in touch with her more specifically. But for now, I'd like to just kind of open this up by engaging to connect about the water, because the Hummingbird gathering, I was invited by our friend Angela Blessing, who's a good sister of mine from California. And I think Kaya too. They both invited me. And it was my first year in Santa Cruz when I moved back there, but it was the second year of 4 years of ceremony. And this ceremony was very interesting. It was hosted by a council of women, but recognized that it was recognized by an Ohlone woman because we're on Ohlone land. But it was an invitation for women from all traditions, even though the council was made up of a mixed Indigenous council, but an invitation for women from any culture to come and to pray for the water and to gather for 4 days. And that first year was like next to a racetrack. It was like next to this racetrack or something. But it was, I don't know about any of you listeners or with you, Elizabeth, but it wasn't a racetrack.
Well, that was the second year.
Oh,
Your
yeah, but
first year. Your first
my
year.
first year. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know about any of y'all, but usually when I go camping for like a couple of days, especially at an event like a festival or a ceremony, like you're tired. You get tired if you're, especially if there's like a lot of things happening, you're up late, you maybe don't sleep so well, you're sleeping outside, there's like nature, spirits, and things that might keep you up. I left there feeling so rejuvenated. Up to that point, I can't remember when I felt that nurtured really in my bones. I was so rejuvenated. We did sweats, we did teachings. And that year, only Native women presented. And then the third year, which was my second year, we were invited, as non-Indigenous, quote unquote, Indigenous women were invited to lead. I was like, yay. And that was when I needed to like lead everything everywhere. And I was like, yay. And I got to teach some Qigong with like flute at sunrise. And it was a really beautiful experience. I'd love for you to share about, actually, I'm going to take this more because I know you have a rich life, spending how long you been on Hawaii?
I moved here with my husband and son in 1985, so it's going to be
It's been a while.
37 years.
37 years. And then
Mm-hmm.
when would you say you started your spiritual path?
Oh, that's interesting question because there's all kinds of kind of plateaus, or I would want to say more introductions into a different fork in the path.
Okay.
As I think about the connection to water
Mm-hmm.
and my introduction to water, we have all of that, all of us have that in common because we were all born in water, and water is the original medicine. So as I feel perhaps most, if not all of your your listeners, sorry, and probably readers, would agree that we
Mm-hmm.
are on a spiritual path just by being born, you know. And
Right.
so,
Right. Life is the path, right?
right, and it's in water.
And we're born in water or from water.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So
Right.
I do feel like I chose the perfect family to be born into for all the things that I was going to need, to prepare myself for my entire life. And it continues to inform me. And I was born in a family that was multicultural, is multicultural. And it was also led by a patriarchal Catholic father, as well as my mom, who equally, worked very hard. And I was one of 4 children. And we were required to go to Catholic church and Catholic school, and my spirit just was not in alignment, and I didn't know it until I was much older, but I would just cry, when I'd hear these things and required to believe them, and I would just cry and it would leave as fast as it came, but it was my spirit washing away the falsehoods I have learned, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my first understanding about waters and water ceremonies. Tears are a water ceremony. I was told at one time to always have a container of water on the altar because we need to refill our water in our body, this original medicine that we always have tears available for us for our healing.
Wow. Having water on your altar as a way to make sure you always have tears available for your healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's gorgeous. Wow. Thank you. I do have water on my altar right now. Good. I want to get in trouble from my elders.
Well, we gotta have it, if we're traveling as life as a ceremony, then the whole earth is our altar. And then we're blessed to be able to take water with us everywhere now. We have containers for it, we have access. Most of us in the world do, much of the world does not. So we're
Let's talk
very
about
blessed. Yeah.
let's talk about some of the projects that you've been involved with to help bring water. I know we were talking about Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
After Hummingbird Gathering, I was inspired to raise some money. I think we raised a couple $1,000s for a well in Haiti. We did an
Mm-hmm.
interview series, and there's so much
Mm-hmm.
more I feel like I can be doing,
Mm-hmm.
and think about that. And
Mm-hmm.
will you share about some of the projects that you've been involved with? Oh, I remember the one we worked with on Hummingbird was the
Mm-hmm.
merry-go-round.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say, that's an interesting question, and it takes me back to Bass Lake actually in 2003 when I took my Hawaiian sister here to a conference, American Indian Women's Conference at Bass Lake, and it was 4 days of camping, and we did lodge, and it was to introduce her to her indigenous sisters that she hadn't met yet. I started seeing the parallels between Hawaiian culture and the Native American tribes that I had been introduced to and where I grew up in Fresno. And so I just wanted her and she wanted to meet a redwood. So that's where we went. And it's where I met Charlene. But it's also where my drumming activities took a new step and where it was envisioned that after witnessing what was happening there and after witnessing, of course, that the Indigenous woman particularly needed certain kinds of support because of history, all things that were happening, it came to me to support women having drums. And I came home and drum speak was presented to me, and I was trying to talk my way out of it because it meant I was going to have to be away from Hawaii. The way that I appeared, the way I presented myself, the way that I'd have a lot of challenges and need a lot of courage and required a lot of healing and growth. And so I resisted, but then it's changed my life, and it was an entryway into working with the waters.
Can I just interrupt you real quickly? People don't know what drum speak is. Will you share just
Okay.
what that is?
Oh gosh. Yeah. So it's a name given to a vision and a project established in 2003. And in order, I had been making drums one-on-one with individuals, but I hadn't started working with groups. And so I felt I needed spiritual permission to do that because it's a huge responsibility.
Right.
And so that's what came to me when I was at this American Indian Women's Conference at Bass Lake. And so I looked at all 6 of my ancestries to find where is the drum so I could walk authentically and speak with who I am when I'm leading drums making.
Yeah.
And so it could be inclusive and everyone could find their spot in the sacred circle. And respectfully, it's about indigenous language, which we all have our indigenous roots. We each have our indigenous roots, preservation and sharing of environmental integrity. And it's, sharing our hearts, and healing and using a safe container that's a protected container and created so that everything that is needed for each individual and hopefully collectively will be revealed in the mystery. And there's monthly drum circles, and there's seasonally ones, and there's a yearly gathering where people are invited to come and share their cultural ways of using the drum, and so that we can learn. And it really takes, it's for me, it's been beautiful because it allowed me, and it continues to allow me, to stay in a humble receiving place. And as an artist, that's in my happy home place also. And it's been a fulfilling life, and drum speak has helped me to reach in many areas. And we have also been doing surrogate drum making for women, um, which also I approach an elder, and she recommends a woman who couldn't normally have a drum, naturally have a drum, and we make a surrogate drum for that woman, and we send it to the elder, and the elder gives it to the woman she's recommended, and we stay anonymous. So that's part of our program also. So it's water and women go together. You know, water and everything goes together. It's in the essence of everything, but particularly women and water.
Tell
And
us
that's what
about
the Hummingbirds Gathering was about too.
the right women and water. Tell us about skin.
Oh, Cameron.
What? Oh, no.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
not even in Cameroon yet. Yeah, I'm not even. I'm going. Yeah,
Okay,
no,
good.
we'll
That's
get
the
there.
most recent anyway.
Yeah. Well, my first introduction to drums was Grateful Dead shows. And
Mm-hmm.
remember that Mickey Hart used to just do drums, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes. And I would just let the
Mm-hmm.
music take me. And then I got in the parking lot, and there were people drum, there were the drum circles, and I would just beeline to the
Mm-hmm.
drum, like run
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
drums.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I found African drumming, and then I met the Sundance drum and the big drum,
Mm-hmm.
and have always, in the last 25 years, it's really been the center. Like my deepest community have been around drumming, has been around drumming. But sometimes people, I don't feel like you have this because you're 37 years in Hawaii, even though you told me earlier you felt like a young elder who still so much to learn. I know with drums that come here from Africa, sometimes I've felt a real disconnect between the spirits of the animals, the people that are here doing ceremonies, just like kind of like they're just, it almost feels like a colonizer energy. I've been part of it, so I'm not blaming anyone. We had an experience 2 years ago in COVID. We started drumming and dancing outside. And I always love the African traditions because they help me get really grounded. And the dance just helps us be in our body, and we come together and we learn a little bit about the cultures. And I feel like it brings good energy, but sometimes feels like a disconnect from the spiritual energy of the native people of the land. This one day we had this class, and we had a class. It was the second time we were out there. My brothers from Congo were playing and singing, and we danced and gave thanks to our ancestors, and all bring our medicine. And next week I went back, and this huge tree, like, I don't know, 200-year-old oak tree. And I don't know if it was 200, but it felt that. And it went out in the park, and it kind of went to the side and around. And we took some pictures with my friend, the teacher and my friend who were going to have a baby. And we did some photos. The next week, the tree was gone. And I was like, oh shit. And I actually did offerings on the tree because I learned that from being in Hawaii and from my native brothers and sisters. So I did some offerings at the tree. I remember that. Actually, we had some fruit. My friend and I, we gave thanks. We touched a tree. We left some fruit. And then the next week it was gone. And I was like, oh shit, we did offerings, like, gosh. And I thought, did they cut that tree down? Can't believe they cut that tree down, And I saw one of the guys on a kind of go-kart, one of the park keepers. I said, did you guys cut the tree? He goes, it just fell. It just fell, I thought, oh, well, I guess it needed to. He said it was so old. I was like, I don't think it was that sick. It was kind of fossilized. It was actually almost stone and probably dead. And it just got me thinking, like, how, like none of the teachers even noticed, you know what I mean? Like, we're just coming in and doing our thing and not aware. And I do my best by, making an offering and giving thanks and like sharing what I know when there's an opening. But I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about how people can, because we could just talk story all day, but I want to offer pieces that our listeners can take away of how they can integrate. Maybe if they want to drum or do yoga outside and do like ceremony, like in their random park in the middle of wherever, like how to kind of come into congruency with the land and the environment that they're on, when they're bringing what they learned in a weekend workshop or something, they just got a didgeridoo and they're just like, I'm just going to play didge here do a sound healing on Tuesday at 3. And how maybe what you've learned or how people can stay
There's
connected
so
in a
much.
good way. So
Yeah,
much.
there's so much to share about all of that. Like
Whatever
you say,
comes up, bring it on.
yeah. So first, I wanted to say your offerings to that tree, was for you, and yet you didn't know what was going to happen to it. So you were giving love and prayer and preparation to it. And it may have looked like none of the elders noticed, but we don't know that.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened in that week. We don't know what they may have done. And so I think that that's a big key to what you're asking is the unknown, but everything is heard and everything is witnessed from somebody somewhere, spirit, a plant, water. It all has memory. It all is present as we are present. So for me, as an example, when I was guided to make my first drum, which was 1993, I knew it was a relationship.
Right.
I drummed every day for 1 year. And through that process, I learned my heart. And we have to, it's a bold statement to say we have to, but for me, I have to offer silence to know my next step.
Right.
And many years ago, I was walking around my house and I realized I am now oriented primarily in the place of listening and receiving. And the flow, my whole life as an artist, I've been very fortunate to have it consistent. And so it's so beautiful, and yet it can be overwhelming. And for me to think about the 4 stages of the butterfly and the 4 stages of creation, those inspirations that come, those visions that come is that egg stage. And I just had to learn to give a nod to spirit and say, thank you so much. I don't know if this will come into form at this life, but I'm listening to the timing, and then the caterpillar comes and we nurture with learning and classes and practice, and then we might hit this place where we lost interest or we don't know what we're doing. Well, that's the cocoon stage. Is it dead or is it transforming? And we offering silence for that. The butterfly lives its whole life in silence.
I love that term, offering silence.
Yes, we have to offer it,
offer
because
silence.
Offer silence to our ancestors, to all beings around us. I'm listening. You have the talking stick. I'm listening. And then after the cocoon, if it survives that period of time, which is about 14 days or something, a total from egg to birth, then it shows up in its full presence, But the butterfly, to make a full migration, depends on its granddaughter to make that migration. So it's this trust of letting go, that the next generation will carry it on, and the next generation. So, we develop ourselves in the areas that we are guided by using the safe container of nature, of the moment, of being present. And then we receive just what we need. We have to offer the silence to hear.
Amazing.
And then this word is not very popular, and especially in my upbringing, but I've learned to embrace the word obedience.
Okay.
And it's obedience to myself, and it's obedience obedience to what I've heard. And I guess maybe if that might be a challenging word for some people, what I learned is it's a way of merging with synchronicity. And I think that experience. Why didn't I listen to myself? And that's really what I'm talking about, you know. Why didn't I listen
Right.
to myself? And it's like when we get that, it could be like the finest thread of guidance, and we may not follow it because we're too busy. Our hands are already full, whatever it is.
We're
But then we
thinking.
lose that precious gift of the synchronicity where we follow this
Mm,
path like the butterfly or like the deer that is not straight, and we get the most incredible gift and blessing, right? We've all had that experience to some way, to some
mm,
degree. And if we want that to increase, we create a safe container for the beings to come through, which is an invitation, same as offering. I'm listening.
mm,
My eyes are dropped. I'm listening with
mm,
my heart. I'm
mm,
receiving through my crown. My
mm,
heart is open. It's four chambered. You know, I have courage. I have trust. I have gratitude. You know, I
mm,
have, I'm here. I'm willing.
mm,
Not perfect by any means, but I'm perfect in my imperfection and in my humanity. And may all of us as humans rise in this condition because we need every person and every being to turn around what's happening on our earth today, you
mm.
know,
Yeah.
to preserve her, to honor her, you know, a little offering every day, whether it's something of a plant or of our silence or of our breath or of our spit or, you know, of our tears or whatever it is.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Here.
mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for those teachings. I'm remembering the four chambers of the heart teachings, but I'd love to go a little bit into that because I've received those teachings, but it seems far away, and I'm just getting this almost kinesthetic memory of the ceremony that we did together, which is when I first fell in love with you as a big sister. Um, because I just went so deep. And will you share about the drum medicine and the the heart and the chamber of the heart, and maybe ways that people can start to that think about themselves and connect with those teachings of the heart? That would be really juicy.
Well, those four chambers, as I mentioned, those qualities, I think of them as the four directions. I think of them as the four pathways. I feel that they're you know, ways for me to give myself a spiritual healthy heart test so that I can say, you know, if my heart is not clear, is my heart clear? And if it's not, maybe I need forgiveness. Is my
Mm.
heart strong? And if I can't say yes, maybe I need courage. And is my heart full? And if I can't say yes, then maybe I need gratitude. And if
Mm.
my heart isn't open, maybe I need trust. And for me, it's about respecting everything, my own life, my own heart, my own
Mm.
waters, body, my connection to my ancestors, my who lives in my bones, who those who are around me, the culture I live within, and the respect, you know, that it takes to continue
Mm.
to live in harmony with
Mm.
differences, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, it's a guiding force in my life, and it's like this. It's similar to the four stages of the butterfly. In fact, you know, it's a way of creating life. Is asking ourselves those questions, the four directions, the four paths of the butterfly, and our heart
Mm.
is the pathway. You know, it's the bridge between Father Sky and Mother Earth, and it's how we deliver all of our feelings, emotions, visions, and insights and inspirations. So it's the bridge between those worlds, and um, yeah, it's a good pathway for
And
me.
no, it's the only way, man, the heart. Yeah,
Well, then we can heal and we can offer healing to others. And we can be a helper
mm,
in that way, you know.
mhm, mhm. Just good. Um, when we work with the heart, when I work with the heart energy, I love the teaching of Anahata, from India, which is unstruck. And it's like that's Anahata is the heart chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And it means like there's an energy in the essence of the heart that's never been wounded, hurt, identified with. It's the divine mother and father that exists in the purity of who we are. And we work with
Mm-hmm.
white light and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes golden light.
Mm-hmm.
Do you work with light? I know you do. Well, you take people on drum journeys, right? But
Yes.
did you ever work with the light of the heart or just awareness and see what's there? Kind of a more
Yeah.
mystery. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
do believe in the light coming through our crown chakra and filling our body and being charged by earth in a similar way, and that radiation of light in the heart is all traditions, as I understand it. I mean, Jesus is a
Mm,
perfect example of that too. The Christ light is what I identify with, the Christ light.
right.
And Jesus was a son, as we are all children in that belief system, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with that image of that
Okay.
radiating heart,
You did.
and
Right.
now I simply embrace it as ourselves as vibration, because everything is energy and we
Right.
vibrate with this frequency of light. So it's the heart, but it's really all of us.
All
That's
of us and everything. Mm,
how I hold it.
that's how
Yeah.
you hold
Anyway.
it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. We do work at the school. We do like the expansion of the because they integrate different traditions into this
Mm-hmm.
embodied
Mm-hmm.
awakening map and do like expansion of from the heart. So practice like expanding your love and like I imagine like domino effects, like it wakes up
Mm-hmm.
the,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like the cells, but actually it's just a way of perceiving
Mm-hmm.
everything is, especially when you increase the proton activity, there's more light. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so great. There's so much great medicine already that you've shared. Butterfly medicine. We're talking about water medicine and drums and honoring and offering silence. Someone who's so verbal and talks way too much. I find that the most rejuvenation comes from my own silence, but I haven't thought about offering silence, a term, and just changed my everything. Thank you. Um, I think that one of the things that a lot of people are struggling with these days is, and I want to offer fresh guidance. So I try to stretch questions on Awaken Life Radio
Mm-hmm.
to open
Mm-hmm.
outside the box and not just provide something people can find out anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that we like to talk about is the path of service and sacred service and Dharma. The world, man, the
Mm-hmm.
world is going through so many changes, and I'm grateful for teachers like you who have created events like where we met that are holding this beautiful container for teachings of these old ways that are really our key to sustainability and spiritual communion and
Mm-hmm.
healing. And I find that people these days are going for like, me included, like the quick, fix of like just,
Mm-hmm.
get some energy and see if anyone liked your Facebook page or, these
Mm-hmm.
things that are taking attention. But I see a lot of people struggling with so many things like depression,
Mm-hmm.
addiction,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I feel like a lot of that, at least in the spiritual community, from all different traditions that I
Mm-hmm.
get the honor to, be in presence with. Um, of really how to serve and how to
Mm-hmm.
like what there's so much to do that sometimes you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Mm-hmm.
part of the stages of like, is that, would you say, possibly when someone's in the cocoon stage? Because I really like to think in terms of like, I'm constantly decolonizing my mind to return to think in
Mm-hmm.
terms of cycles,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know? And do you have
Yeah.
any kind of feed advice or support that you could say to people that are struggling with like not knowing what to do and being overwhelmed with
Mm-hmm.
the challenges and the needs of the world at this time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question, because everything needs everything at this point.
Right.
So, how can each of us be effective using our energy in the most balanced way
Hmm.
for ourselves and for where we put our energy, so we increase balance where we
Okay.
are and where we go and where we put ourselves into. So for me,
Okay. Before you keep going, I'm sorry. I'm going
yeah.
to lovingly interrupt you. Will you repeat that one more time? Because I do find, especially with a lot of people that I mentor, finding the right prayer is everything, which is kind of what I just heard from you. So
Good. That's a good interpretation of what I just
thank
said.
you.
Perfect interpretation.
Okay.
So for me, when it boils down to what I do in my life, is
Mhm,
I provide containers in
mhm,
one way or another, whether it's through listening, through the drum, through the circle, through ceremony,
mhm,
of ways for people to connect, because that's what we need, is to increase our threads of connection to our own guidance and our own ways of knowing what is best for us. No one can really tell us that. We can be helped by and sparked by coming to our own truth, but it's too much responsibility for me to tell another person what they need to do, because I can't be responsible of where they take it, and I won't be there to help them with the next step. So the best thing I feel like I
right.
can do is help them find or support ways of connection. And that's what
Mhm,
all of this does for me. And so,
mhm,
with that, um, we'll find our own way, and for me with a circle, since COVID, and I had a pathway of a healing before COVID, that through grief, that took me to this place of having to reevaluate everything I'm doing, because my energy was so minimal at that point. And then I've healed through that. Fortunately, it took me 3 years.
mhm,
And but I went back to doing what I do. And with COVID, things are much more opened up now that we can do public gatherings. So I've been back now
mhm,
for a year or so doing these. And so I've returned to the Four Seasons and the cross quarter days. So like August 1st, which is also known as Lammas, which is for the Northern Hemisphere, is halfway through the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. So my prayer and my encouragement for myself and others is to look at what were the seeds that we planted in springtime, or the beginning of the year is what we tend to do in Western culture, with New Year's. But if we think about it, the spring planting, and then where has those, whether it's actual seeds for food and plants, or whether it's our own
mhm,
idea seed form, and then we can reevaluate it around Beltane or May 2nd. Is it coming along? Has it broken ground? Does it still need watering? And then at summer solstice at the full light, okay, is our dreams, thoughts, goals now starting to get some height to it? Is it starting to blossom? Does it need watering? Does it need fertilizer? What does it need? More love, more prayers, more songs. And then now we're in Lammas, or August 1st. So we're going to have a fire ceremony and offering Hawaiian plants. And if there's after the drumming and the safe container that was created, if there's a time for the sharing of talking stick, and for people to share, where they're at and what is needed perhaps. And it's also considered first fruit. So what are we already harvesting, and what more is needed in order for the dreams to be realized? And then we look at
mhm,
the season of autumn equinox, and who lives in our bones, and who else, what else can we offer in order to bring all of it into full harvest. And then we
mm,
have a winter harvest too in many places of the world, so maybe it has to continue through a whole nother cycle and season. I think the
mhm.
main thing is respecting ourselves and not judging ourselves, and continuing to listen, and whatever it is for the mysteries to be revealed and have it realized, we're doing just the right and perfect and beautiful thing.
Mm, thank you for that. If people are not meditating and praying and doing offerings with the seasons, you can. And she just told you exactly how you can. Elizabeth just shared. Thank you in your own way and in your own season, even if you don't have community, you can bring two friends together and have a
And
fire.
you know what else? Even if you don't have a drum, like if I'm in the car, I
Mm,
might put my hand on my heart and just drum my heart,
mm-hmm.
because it activates that drum. And we're
Mm-hmm.
sleeping, we're doing a journey while we sleep. Our heart is
Mm-hmm.
beating, the dreams are vibrating, they're coming into rhythm with ourselves, and we can just help ourselves by drumming our own heart wherever we are,
Mm.
and bring ourselves back to that place.
I love it. I love it. And now they found that like tapping on your breastbone activates happiness, and people do that for therapeutic,
See?
systems, the tapping. They say, we knew. They always knew.
We know it. We know. We
We
just have to
know.
trust.
I want to just highlight one thing that you mentioned, that it was subtle. People, if you missed it, write this down because as someone who's been in spiritual work some time myself, this was still a new thing that you said, which is kind of assessing at each corner of the year that you're at, or mid quarter of the year that you're at, if your prayers or food or thoughts or all of the above need something to continue to stay in a healthy life cycle, or maybe there's a letting go, or versus I'm not manifesting yet, which is a animalistic natural response, frustration based on survival mind that we're all decoding from and dismantling from. And so it was subtle, but it was very powerful to assess what you need, what needs to happen to continue to nurture that offering or that prayer, or the growth of your idea, and support it, instead of like my tendency, which is a lot of fire energy. It's probably why spirit has brought me to all these water women in the last 10, 15 years. Is like, I just burn it all. Let's just give everything away and just go. And then I used to think that was a spiritual thing, but now I realize it's a colonized thought. Like, oops. So that way of acknowledging what's needed in any given moment, even though it seems so simple, it's something that's a lot less habitual for most humans that I know, to even ask that. What do I need right now? What do you need right now? What do we need for this prayer, this intention, this thought to feel connected, as you mentioned about connecting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate you listening with that intention of inquiry, and in that lies the answer, which is love ourselves first. And you love yourself first by asking that question because you wanted clarity. You wanted to move in this way that's going to bring that balance and peace. And so the question itself answers, it's simple, but it's not necessarily our first response. And to give ourselves a loving statement, thought, space, silence, practice, all of the things that we do, and to look within ourselves first and offer that, then we have a natural way of connecting to our bodies. What do we need? Starting first with ourselves before we start grasping outside of ourselves. It's the grasping that is not the loving ourselves. I know that very well myself, I'm correct. And so in loving ourselves first, we get so full that we want to give. And giving is receiving, and receiving is giving. And so the circle is already full when we do that, right? And there's a Hawaiian phrase, o ke aloha ke alakahi, let love lead. That actually got birthed from the work in Cameroon. And with the mentor young man that I'm working with. And that is always our phrase in our letting go, let love lead. So it returns us back to ourselves, our intentions, our prayer for the project, for everything we do in our healing is, to be inclusive of spirit. And so love ourselves first and then let love lead. And it's, again, for me, when I notice I'm grasping, it's like hands off, Elizabeth. Listen. Hands off. And there is a temptation, to look at social media more often than, it's grown for me too. And it just occurred to me, because I've done so much work on the project in West Africa, I realized you know, that drum speak is actually the umbrella for since 2003 of everything that I have been doing, including, you know, the art that I have in our gallery. But, you know, with that,
No, I didn't know you had an art gallery.
yeah, for a long time, 18
Oh,
years in Honolulu,
oh,
a little town here in Hawaii. Yeah,
okay.
you know, my tendency in life until more recently, age 42, when I had this incredible healing of what happened when my grandmother died, um, I used to like to fly under the radar, you know, but
Yeah.
it's really hard these days to fly under the radar because
And
of
have
the
anyone
what has
notice.
got created. Yeah. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but I realized I never even, you know, I have like the gallery, Instagram, I've got the blessing ways because, you know, I'm a wedding
Mm-hmm.
officiant, but I never put, and I put up the Farm Mission Global site on Instagram, but I never did drum speak. And so like all of a sudden I'm like back more to myself and really holding it as an umbrella, you know, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what everything has come under, because it's all about the heart. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
that is the umbrella. I felt like people were really recognizing that all this energy for 2 years now has been going towards this project in West Africa. And it just so happened it was coinciding with the quieter COVID time. And people are trying to say, well, what's happening with the drumming? I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what led me to be a little bit more public or just to own,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like
Yeah.
17 years of what has been happening and just to share that, you know. So I
Yeah.
feel re-enlivened, and that's where all my energy was directing me. So I'm
Mm.
glad I'm listening because I'm enlivened.
I love it. I'm thinking about Cameroon, someone who I think I have past lives in Africa because I'm very much in love with the culture and the music and just very deep
Uh-huh.
and have dreamt about being black. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and blue too, different kinds of colors. That's another podcast episode. But what do you drum there when you're in Cameroon?
I have not been to Cameroon yet.
Okay, tell us about Cameroon. What is happening in
Oh
Cameroon?
gosh. Okay.
And
This
then
is actually a story all to itself because it's been an incredible almost 2 year journey of meeting a young man, Josica Benzica, online through an unusual pathway. And when we met, we was on Words for Friends, and I know it's kind of funny, and Words with
is
Friends.
that an app on Facebook?
Well,
Words
no,
with
it's just
Friends?
no, but it's a like a Scrabble game,
It's like a
and I was
Scrabble
introduced
game.
to,
Okay.
yeah, kind of like,
Mhm.
but you just play with people you know or you don't know. And I've heard many people that have made like longtime friendships on this game, and then you can also
Mhm.
play with people you know. So I got introduced to it from my with my mother-in-law, and I
Mm.
never knew about it. I never played for months, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that game, it was fun, you know. And I was in a healing phase where I was at home a lot, and so I started playing, and then the game matched me up with this person, and it's like, okay. So I started playing, and I won a few games, and then we started a chat, and then he was like calling me dear, or I knew his or sweetheart or whatever like that, and it's like, oh boy, you know. But then you know, it's like he's from the part of the world that's natural and whatever. I learned he was from Cameroon, and so um,
Mhm.
through that, you know, it's all a broad story and it's really deep, but
Okay. Whatever you want to
um,
share.
yeah, I know it's hard. So anyway, we learned pretty quickly through that avenue that we have kinship.
Hmm.
And he had lost everything at COVID. He's a farmer. He was an IT guy, and he lost everything. And I mean everything. And so it was like in the middle of the night there, he was playing this game. People were committing suicide around him, being put in jail because they couldn't return their loans for farming. It was horrendous because all the borders of distribution closed. And so I started mentoring him. And he's a man of such unbelievable integrity.
Hmm.
And I heard myself saying I'd put up a GoFundMe. And then it's like, oh my God, what have I done? You know, that's so much work. And then I
Mm.
said to him, because we started talking on phone about a month and a half later,
Mhm.
and through WhatsApp, and I said, you know, none of my women friends or people that I know will really participate in donating anything unless it's female centric.
Mm.
And he shared with me, he was raised by a single mom. His dad died when he was young, and it was completely his life already. He had adopted a young girl, long story, as his kid sister and was raising her. He's bilingual, French and English, and he's got a master's in marketing, and he's very intelligent. And everything I offered as a mentor, he applied it and came back and told me how he applied it. So as an elder, that's what you pray
Wow.
for. That's
Mm.
what you pray for.
Mm.
And so fast forward, we have now, I mean, I'll tell you where we are now because it's a big vision. In fact, I did an art around it. Oh, I can show you, but
But people can't see.
Anyway.
Aw. Take a picture
Yeah.
and send me the picture of it.
Okay, yeah, great. I will.
Cute.
It's actually 4 pathways of providing well water, fresh water in these to this village that has is part of the world, and so many places in the world don't have fresh water. They've never had fresh water. They may walk anywhere from 8 to 40 miles to get water, and it's oftentimes dirty. And it's usually the girls that are the water fetchers, and particularly in areas where there's many where polygamy or many wives are legal, but not the young girls. And so just providing water turns all of that around. And also, so it's farming, it's sustaining community with lifting women up in sustainable ways through education and entrepreneurship, and home gardens. So right now we have just finished 4 wells with pumps that are mechanical because there's not electricity, and for 4 villages, and 20,000 people are having fresh water for the first time. Amazing. And this land, 50 acres, we're farming, and we were given 5 acres of mature palm fronds that we are harvesting for weaving, so that the women can have a sustainable way to make a living. And on our horizon is a vocational school for these girls that are able to go to school, that we can send to school, that are freed by not having to fetch the water, can have a way of creating cottage industries, as we would call them, through the vocational school. So it's a big vision. Wow. And we're well on our way. And this is only less than 2 years since I met Jessica. And
wow.
Yeah. And so he never left his country, and he's got a 1-year visa. And as I was sending him the fundraising money, everyone said, have you met this person in person? No. And there's always an issue of fraud, especially in this time of the world and during COVID, when people get more
hungry,
desperate for things, right? And so I always had to say no. And so he and I just said, the world wants us to meet, so let's do it in 2022. And so he applied for a visa, unheard of for a young unmarried man without a family of his own, to be given a visa. But when the embassy saw what we've done, and he had every single receipt of everything I sent him and what we've accomplished, they say, you two have to meet. And they gave him a year visa, and he was just here for 5 weeks in Hawaii. Chills. And now he's in the mainland, and seeing how he can maximize the 1 year. Yeah, he has really good farm managers that are his family, his Ohana, and people he trusts that are maintaining the wells, making sure that pregnant women, if they're in line, they can move to the front of the line to get water, that it's locked at night, and that the animals can't get in, and that the water can't be gleaned, and because there's, it needs to be cared for and kept clean. And that he also created a team of boys to be the water fetchers for the kings and the older men, so the girls are no longer fetchers, and then they can go to school. Wow. And not be illegal wives, which also happens in these rural places. Wow. So this is what, we were talking about, Narayani. It's about having no clue. I had no clue, although I know that this is part of my thought and dream of many things, with the drum. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, this is environmental integrity. This is the one heart of Mother Earth. And we're filled with, you know, populations of heart all over
Mm.
our earth and in
Mm.
all beings, you know, the essence of who we are, which is water. Nothing exists without it. And
Mm.
so this is a part of the dream that I had no idea how it was going to come. But if I hadn't gone through that portal of health issues relating to grief, the loss of my mom, and more so working with my siblings, that I wouldn't have met him and this wouldn't be happening. So we
Mm.
have to trust ourselves, you know, and
Mm.
not, and listen, like,
Yeah.
okay, there's something here, there's something here, there's a connection, there's something here, there's power here,
Mm.
there's presence here,
Mhm.
this is unfolding.
Mhm.
And I
Do you mhm.
have, go ahead.
Sorry, please. No, finish.
I was going to say, well, I have one son and I never had
Mhm.
a girl, and I tend to adopt girls around me, you
Mhm.
know, in many different ways here in Hawaii and everywhere, like the surrogate drum making. And I was blessed through Josica, you know, with his family there in Nice and his adopted kid sister and more, you know, to do a video chat with them. And it's like I have a circle of girls there now. And this one
Aw.
video chat was so beautiful because, you know, we had already met a few times, and then they were all together in his place for a school break. And I said, let
Mhm.
me have a video chat if I could. And so I did, and I just talked with them about, you know, listen to your dreams, you know, listen to
Mhm.
your dreams, and what is it that you would like to do? Study hard, follow your heart, listen to your dreams. And you know, you could actually even become an empowered woman doing what you would like to do and the gifts you have to give to the world even before you have children, you know. And
Mm.
speaking in this soft way with this video chat, and Josica
Mm.
being, you know, the heart-filled person that he is, after we were done with the video call, he had a circle at the table and asked everyone if they understood, because they don't know English well. But the fact that they were getting this
Mm.
introduction to a way from a woman across the world that did have advantages and does have advantages, and they're looking to
Right.
how to be filled, you know, in their
Right.
life, that has been carrying them. And you know, we have
Amazing.
such power to share our experience in our hearts, you know, that can just change the trajectory of other people if they choose. People, and particularly girls. For me, it's particularly girls because I didn't have a girl
Mhm.
of my own.
Yeah.
You know, how to support that. You
Amazing.
know, it's amazing to me. I mean, I could get emotional right now thinking about it. It's a
It's
dream
amazing. Yeah, you can get emotional if you want. I support that.
come.
But
Yeah.
I thank you for your deep service, and I'm just wondering if, how do I put this? It's like, do you follow your heck yes? Like, do you, like, when you're making decisions that, like, I just really do you wait for that, you know, to like, because I noticed in these few years, there's like, even before this, because I was going through deep grief as well, because
Mhm.
my partner passed away 5 years ago, and it was really a
I'm
4-year
sorry.
ceremony. Thanks,
Mhm.
thanks. I'm good. I mean, I
Mhm.
was in love with him. He taught me how to connect with the spirit world. You know, he was
Mhm.
a Sundance chief, and taught me a lot in our year together. But so much grief. I mean, I didn't even know I had that many. There were that many
Mhm.
tears available. And then my dad
Mhm.
transitioned on summer solstice last year, which was a
Mhm.
blessing. It was all very,
Mhm.
very beautiful, actually.
Mhm.
And in grief, in my experience, there's healing. It's healing time. Maybe
Mhm.
it's cocoon time, right? It's
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
just like, you're not yet in reborn. You're
Mhm.
processing and integrating,
Mhm.
digesting and letting go. And I'm in
Mhm.
that stage now because I'm in menopause. So I'm like,
Mhm. Mhm.
whose body is this? What's happening? What am I doing? What is this? I'm so
Mhm.
emotional. You know, all these different waves of experiences. And it's different. And the way that I feel and the way I think and the way that I see is changing.
Mhm.
And it has been, you know,
Mhm.
I have been, it always is for all of us.
Mhm.
Um, but I find that less and less mentally processing mentally, like less and less the thinking, does the thinking process bring me the guidance that I seek? Whereas
Mm-hmm.
my feeling body and just a
Mm-hmm.
knowing or a dream or
Mm-hmm.
is like the only thing more and more
Mm-hmm.
that I can really make decisions. I don't mean like,
Mm-hmm.
go to the store or not go to the store,
Mm-hmm.
or, what to do tonight or where to have dinner. Like, I mean, like when you're making decisions about your path and your
Mm-hmm.
work and your dharma and, like
Mm-hmm.
I was invited to this festival. It was a, oh, hell yes kind of a thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that, like, if you're not sure, like, how do you navigate? Do you stay in the prayer and then await for that clarity on an internal level? Do you wait for something on the outside
Mm-hmm.
to show itself? Do you just follow the flow and not think
Mm-hmm.
about it? How do you make
Yeah, well,
decisions?
I mean, a lot of pathways to share about that has come, and I thank you for the question. And
Mm-hmm.
um, just so I don't forget, I'm going to say, say first, I'm going to that in Hawaiian culture, we say to follow your na'au, follow your gut, which is the feeling body, really, because the mind can change and the heart can change, but our na'au stays constant. The heart reveals, the mind reveals, but what does your body tell you? And so in listening to that is always helpful. I don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
always feel it in my gut. Some people say it's the womb. I do feel it as an impression on
Right.
me, an impression.
Right.
And when I feel that impression, then I know that is, what I need to do. I don't necessarily get a heck yes.
Mm-hmm.
I get more like
Mm-hmm.
a
A quiet.
receiving of it,
Mm-hmm.
witnessing it, and then I say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
Thank you. Thank you.
reaffirm
Thank
the like, heck yes, this
you.
is the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this is the it's not. I'm not suggesting how you receive it and how you work with
No.
it, but for me,
Well, I'm
that's the
asking
way
you.
it
Yeah.
works for me. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is that I was at the Kilauea um, crater many years ago. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
2017 or something like that. And I was sitting at the rim, near the rim, and I had my drum, and there was a full moon overhead, and the lake of lava is distant, but very present, hugely present, a mile across, this lava lake in this crater, and this moon overhead. And, and I was just watching, and the steam was rising, and the moon was kind of, it felt all very feminine for me. And I'm like in the
Mm-hmm.
middle, present of it, right? And I just like kind of what I tend to do is soften my gaze so that my inside eyes can see and feel. And what I realized in that moment is like, oh my goodness, this is like a giant lodge. This is
Mm-hmm.
like the stones, the fire, the steam, and the ceiling is the sky. And then
Mm-hmm.
it just came to me like a bolt of inspiration. Life is a ceremony when we pray it to be. And I have heard that before, that life is a ceremony, but I didn't really understand what that was until I had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, so then I walk in a way that is that life is a ceremony, and we're birthed into it and we birth out of it,
Mm-hmm.
and we come into the east and we leave in the west or north or however that happens. And we don't know how long the ceremony is. So far, it's been 65 years for me. I'm grateful, and I don't know when I'm walking out the door or however that happens. But I'm really feel blessed to have all these things presented to me, to be able to use the feeling body to know where to go. And the timing is everything. To me, timing is everything. And even and I say to my friend and Jessica, because the project's so big, and to others too. And my son started, I have a son, Jerome, he started
Mm-hmm.
using this as well, everything in spirit timing. And so we
Mm-hmm.
may talk about this or that or a hope or a dream. It's like everything in spirit timing,
Everything in
you know?
spirit timing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that requires us to listen and to know what spirit timing is. It's not to say, yes, I'm going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. Maybe in spirit timing, or
In
let's see what
spirit
spirit
timing.
timing is, you
Right.
know,
Right.
because then it
Thank
takes us
you.
off of us, and we can stay in that receiving and listening place. And that's how we're going to get on that path to that mystery revealed, the miracle, the magic, the gratitude, the blessing, all of it.
Right, right. I feel like I'm finally starting to get that
Mm-hmm.
teaching at my age because because of all the energy and all the Shakti and everything when I was younger.
So, you and I talked shortly before we started, and I had said you're so young, and it wasn't diminutive at all. It's just the opportunity, right? I know you didn't take it that way, but I remember. But why it's such a beautiful age for me to remember for myself is that a Saturn return is about 27 to it starts around that time and 29 and a half, right? And that's when, and the Greek name for Saturn is Chronos. So when it comes to the second Saturn return, which is at 59 years old, you have another opportunity to crystallize wisdom, and that's the Chronos or the crone stage. So it's like the astronomical grounding cord, or for lack of a better word, or opportunity, or whatever, to start really owning our elderness,
Right.
And so for me, I knew it was such an important portal or grounding cord or opportunity, whatever. I did a lodge for myself at 59. I did it by myself, the stones, the fire, everything. I spent the night in the lodge. I went through my 59th year to my 60th. I did another lodge for so I walked that whole year in dedication to becoming an elder. And even though people had told me I was before that, I appreciated that perception. It was very supportive to continuing to own and be in my wisdom place. And for me to walk that year also increased the invitation for all those voices of wisdom to come as I was walking. And then I did another lodge in that same manner for myself at 60. And then I felt free. And that was in May. And then in December that same year, my mom passed. And it was actually a good as a passing could be in regards to our relationship, because we were current, we healed issues. And she was incredible in giving me a deep well to draw from of grace and love and spiritual generosity. But then it was after that, working with my siblings, that created the challenges 1 year after that. But with that, I needed that preparation.
Well, I mean, what I hear you talking about is initiations and like rising to using the natural cycle of life and of your life and of your experiences to, I mean, in these ways that enable you to authentically embody what's just natural, what's coming.
Have that natural help, the
Right.
universal natural help, because we have the whole universe inside of us. So when we go back to this place of our birth,
Right.
that's all the planets of wherever they are in our map get stimulated because of self-similarity and fractal
Right.
geometry. We have it inside of us. So it just like
Right.
vibrates and then gives its gifts too.
It's so cool.
So we're using it in a
Right.
way that is helping us and helping everyone,
Helping everyone from a full cup.
everything. Yeah, because
Yes.
we're more of a whole person.
Because you're a whole
Our
person.
wholeness, we're always a whole person, but we can experience our wholeness more wholly in
Well,
holy
I was
ways.
just thinking about how you were saying also 42, because 42 is also the Uranus return from what I've learned. Do you know about the
Oh,
Uranus return? So in
um,
Vedic astrology, the 42 year is like it's like
mhm,
a 40, it's your Uranus, you go around, Uranus goes around
oh,
the earth 42
yeah,
times. So that
yeah,
matches your birth time, which they
uh-huh,
called, which I was told was your midlife crisis.
uh-huh,
And so if you're
uh-huh,
not doing your higher spiritual work at that time,
uh-huh.
which you were probably 42, you said was a big turning point, then people
Yes,
get like, oh, what am I doing with my life?
uh-huh,
What matters and what's important and all of that.
right, right.
And just knowing these little things and understanding the
It
cycles of
helps.
the year and of the
Mhm,
ages, yeah,
mhm,
really helps. And my wish for our listeners is, to just take these things that were off, that Mama Elizabeth, would you call yourself auntie? People call you auntie. You're an
Yeah,
auntie.
people call me Auntie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hawaii. That this
Yeah.
beautiful auntie is offering you, around these teachings, because you don't have to live on Hawaii and spend 40 years with elders to learn this. It's now being offered to you in a way that you can start to practice in your own way. I find that since Chief passed, today's actually the first invitation that I have to a sweat in like years, that I may be going, may or may not be going, or I may just go and hang out and support. But you don't always have community. Not everyone always has community, but you could
Mm-hmm.
still do what you do based on what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And also you can continue to cultivate your connection with
Mm-hmm.
spirit and the natural rhythms.
I want to say that one of the things that really has been a gift in Hawaii, in Hawaiian culture, so many gifts. I mean, it has completely sculpted me, in these 37 years. But for me, is broadening the understanding that community, Ohana, which means family, is actually all life. It's simply, we think of it as people community, but it actually community is communing, community. We're communing, and so we're communing with, we are nature. We're not separate from nature, and we're a part of nature. And so our community is all nature, and so that is that communing. So, I know it's a little bit harder when there's a lot of noise and in city environments, and different pressures and different stresses than here in Hawaii, undeniably. And we're blessed to have the spirit of aloha and all the ceremony and all the rituals that's been done here since the beginning of time. And it's not as covered up as in some different places with man-made things. So we are
Mm-hmm.
able to glean that spiritual support. And that's part of why I was able to receive, along with my Hawaiian people, Ohana, to broaden that view of what community is.
I love
And
it.
it also increases our responsibility with it.
Right. Your community is not just your people and spiritual people. Your community is everyone and all your relations, and especially
Right.
including nature. I love when I'm
Totally.
on Hawaii, like how I've had experience in the past. It's like it must be the mana, because it's like my
Mm-hmm.
skin is
Yeah.
like breathing food. It's like you're just nurtured being in the
Mm-hmm.
in the in the pristine
Mm-hmm.
energy. Thank you for holding prayers for us and for the water and for the future and for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to do another talk with you, really get into the drum. We barely talked about the drum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm gonna just ask you to share. How can people stay in touch with you or follow up with you if they want?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there's all the social media ways. Um,
Okay.
so those are all there. Email.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your email? Spell it for them if because they're listening.
Probably, well, there's two avenues. One is
Mm-hmm.
blessingways@yahoo.com, which is
Mm-hmm.
BLESSINGWAYS at yahoo.com. And the
Mm-hmm.
other way is info at drumspeak,
Speak.
DRUMSPEAK.org. Yeah.
Okay. I will put one of those in the show notes so
Okay,
people can
thanks.
find it in the show
There's
notes.
that drumspeak has that website too.
Yeah,
So,
there's so much medicine. I mean, just from like a passing sentence that you shared that, how we're water and we're all water and we're made of water. Our essence is water. So many nuggets in here. Um,
cheers.
yeah, and the tears. I had some tears already. Um, I can't wait to chat with you more, and I'm grateful that you were willing to reconnect with me and record a conversation. And there's
Well,
so much more. Hmm.
yeah, thank you, Narayani, for being the safe container that you are. That you make yourself open and vulnerable and willing to listen and learn and heal and hear. That
Mm.
allows the person that you're speaking with to have an exchange of talking stick and a container between us that allows everything to come through. And so thank you so much for the
Mm.
opportunity for your own journey that brings you to this place to allow us to expand out to all who are drawn to listen and to share. And I really, really appreciate it. Go ahead. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo.
Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed checking out today's episode of Awaken Life Radio. To stay updated on offerings, classes, workshops, and new episodes, feel free to check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Awakened Life Tribe. Thank you so much. Namaste.